Today, I'm going to replace the brake pads front and rear on the KLR 650. The front ones are a little low, so I decided to just go ahead and replace them. Loosen the pins that hold the brake pads in place. Remove both caliper bolts. Remove caliper. And now we can slide the brake pad pins out of the caliper. Remove the inboard and outboard pad. Push the pistons into the caliper. Then remove the caliper mounting bracket. Clean up both slides on the bracket, then apply a light coating of synthetic brake caliper grease. Reinstall the brake caliper mounting bracket. Make sure it slides in and out properly. Install the inboard pad. Install the brake pad pins. Get them through the inboard pad. Install the outboard pad and slide the brake pad pins all the way through. Pushing the pad back into the caliper for more clearance so the rotor fits in between both pads. And place your caliper back on. Hand tighten all the bolts, and then torque the mounting bolts to 20 foot-pounds, which is 27 Newton meters, and the brake pad pins 12 foot-pounds, 17 Newton meters. Pump up your handbrake 3 or 4 times till you get a good brake. Check your master cylinder fluid level, add if necessary, and then close it back up. Rear brakes. And I'm going to open up the reservoir. A good idea on the master cylinder reservoirs, when you're doing brake pads, take about half the fluid out using a rag. And that way, when you push in the caliper pistons, the fluid can return to the reservoir without overspilling. Remove the hose bracket to gain access to your caliper bolts. Loosen the brake pad pins. and then remove both caliper bolts. Remove caliper from the rotor. Slide your brake pad pins out. Using a screwdriver between the old pads, I'm pushing the pistons back into the caliper. Remove the outboard pad, remove the inboard pad, remove your caliper bracket. Clean up your caliper bracket slides, apply brake grease, a light coat, just like the front. Reinstall the caliper bracket onto the caliper. Make sure it slides properly. Insert the inbound pad. Insert the outbound pad. Reinsert your brake pad pins. Get them started by hand. Again, I'm pushing that brake pad as far back as it'll go to make clearance for the rotor. Now we can insert the caliper back onto the bike and reinstall the caliper bolts. Snug them down by hand. Snug down the brake pad pins. Now the rear brake pad pins is a torque of 12 foot-pounds, 17 Newton meters. And the mounting bolts calls for 18 foot-pounds, 25 Newton meters. Check your brake fluid, top it off if necessary. I added too much, so I'm using a rag to take some of the brake fluid out of the reservoir. And that looks about right. And then just cap it off and put everything back together. It is a good idea that when you do brake pads, you should bleed out the brake systems front and rear just to get clean fluid in there and any air that might have built up over time. Have a few videos on that for the front and the rear in the KLR 650 playlist. There's a good chance that you're going to spill brake fluid somewhere. What I like to do is get everything soaked down with some soapy water, and then with the hose I just rinse everything down. If you do spill brake fluid, that will get rid of it and it won't damage any paint. Hey, we're getting there. Almost done. I'm still waiting on 2 items, the power port and the stalk eliminators for the turn signals. That's all I got. Questions, comments, leave them down below. Be safe out there on the road, and God bless.